Hi everyone, this is Gary Wilson and welcome to tonight's live training webinar Q&A session. It is Thursday, August 20th, and we've got a pretty good agenda tonight. I've got some great emails to go over from Shane and Adam and Julie and Carol, and we're going to go over a couple of the calculators. We're also going to go over some techniques, stealth techniques to find properties. I know Shane had a pretty good question on finding properties in the Northern Virginia area. And for those of you who've been around a while, you know that the Washington, D.C. area, the Toronto area, the Boston area, and the Bay area are four very high-priced areas, okay? Tight inventory, high prices. That doesn't mean you can't do business. It's just you have to use different techniques. Of course, a lot of them we teach through the program here. The other thing, too, is you have to realize transactions are still occurring on a regular daily basis. If you look at your MLS system to do some stats, you can look at what's sold, what's active, what's pending. You'll see there's plenty of business out there. There's plenty of activity, okay? The one thing you always want to make sure of is that you don't let yourself fall into the trap of thinking, oh my goodness, there's not enough out there. What am I going to do? How can I do it? Don't think like that. What you want to do is do this. And I write this on. I literally have an index card right by my computer that I look at every single night. And it simply has a question, how can I? And the reason that's important is this: when you find yourself making statements like, I don't know how, or I can't, or I shouldn't, or there's not a lot of inventory, or there's so many people out there, those are our limiting beliefs, negative behavior. They're scarcity type statements. And what you have to do is, and by the way, it's perfectly normal, guys. Everybody does that, including me. What I will give you is a technique to counter that. And that technique is literally write down these words, how can I, and you fill in the blank, okay? And the reason that works is, and this isn't just theory, by the way, guys, this is actual scientific, evidence that when you ask yourself questions like that, open-ended questions, how can I, and you promise yourself, you commit to coming up with at least 3 answers. You might think 2 of them are bad. You might think all 3 are bad. But what happens is you're conditioning your mind to think creatively, resourcefully, innovatively, okay? And literally what happens, new neuron connections are being made in your brain. Literally, this is what happens. And you expand. It's just like you exercising a muscle. You expand the size of the muscle and the strength of the muscle. The same thing with your mental capacity. When you counter those limiting statements with open questions, it has a profound impact on your ability to innovate, be resourceful, and come up with answers. And I'm going to give you a really good example here. I don't want to teach history here, but I'm a history buff. And the example is the example of the first powered flight, okay? If you read your history books, what you'll discover is the 2 brothers, Wilbur and Orville, were commuting back and forth between Ohio and the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Literally, this was at a day and age when they had to go by horse and train. They didn't have cars and planes, and they they innovated the method of mechanical flight on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. At the same time, there was a developer or an innovator, whatever you want to call him, up in Washington, D.C., a guy named Langley. Okay, and Langley was receiving government grants. He had this just long list of education and degrees, and he tried to develop powered flight. And the bottom line is he really couldn't do it. He had so many resources. He was blowing money left and right. And I think one guy actually died in one of his tests. And then here you have the Wright brothers, who were down there with literally sand in their teeth, okay, and sheer determination, and using parts and materials from their bicycle business, okay, to create the first machine-powered flight. The bottom line is this: the Langley was limited by his failures and limiting beliefs. He actually gave up. He actually gave up and went away humiliated. Whereas the Wright brothers never gave up, and they kept asking themselves, how can we solve this little minute problem? They took one literal problem at a time. And as a result, you and I get to fly around in airplanes. So in any case, sorry to ramble there, but that's the power of asking yourself questions. Okay, let me see here. Let me go to the questions real quick that are online here. Okay, this is a commercial building that houses a preschool daycare. It's not a fourplex. I forgot to change the type of property. Okay, this is Carol talking about the opportunity evaluator, which I have right here in front of me. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little historical diatribe there. But the reason I did that is there's a powerful message in here. I hope you guys took that to heart and took notes on that, because I tell you, everything I can teach you academically will pale in comparison to everything I can teach you spiritually. And that asking yourself good questions is a good spiritual practice, okay? So let's look at this opportunity evaluator. So Carol's question, let me go back to the email. Hang on one second here. Let's reduce this, and here it is right here. I'm going to have to scroll down. Carol, I had to send this to myself at my consider a sold email address. Okay. Hi, Gary. I'm trying to use the opportunity evaluator for a commercial building and not sure if I'm doing it correctly. Here's the basic info, building info. 3.8 million, 6,300 square feet, $608 per square foot, almost 609. That's all she has at the moment. She put in there a down payment of 25% and 1.5% of real estate taxes. And she's attached the sheet, and we're going to look at that now. So let's take a look. Okay. So we got 3.8 million, a mortgage of 2.9 million, because she put down 972,000, which is about 25%. That's right. Okay, she puts in here the mortgage payment information, 12 payments per year for 30 years, with the loan term of 20 years, which means there's going to be a balloon there. Okay, so it's amortized for 30 years. And yet it's due and payable in 20 years, which means there's 10 years left over, i.e. balloon payment, or in the case of commercial loans, they'll reprice it. Rates could go up or rates could go down. Right now, they're 5%. So you've got a monthly mortgage payment of $15,000. Now, Carol, what I don't see here is I see you've got gross rents over here. Gross potential rental income. That's a lot of rental income. Carol, if you could type in, if you know, again, maybe you don't know that because you actually told me that's all you know. So we have to project rents here, because the rents you have right here, for this place to make $3.8 million in rents, gross rent, which is about the same price of the sales price, that would be obviously highly unusual. So maybe you were just plugging in figures here to see how you can make it work. So what I would do is this. Over here in this box, Carol, and this is for everybody on the call, take notes. Where my cursor is right now, you can determine the type of units you have. Now, this is a commercial building. I think it's a daycare center from what I remember. So let's just say there's one type of unit, and it's a two. Let's just say it's let's just leave it the way it is: 2-bedroom, one bathroom. Now, the building is going for $600 some odd per square foot. Because it's in the San Francisco Bay Area, that's just what you're going to pay out there. It's expensive. Okay. Yeah, there it is right there. Average annual rent per square foot is $608. In square feet is 6,000. So that's about $10 a square foot. Carol, that's actually low for your area. Just to give you a ballpark figure, and the average right now around the country is $14 to $18 a square foot. Okay, that's the average around the area right now. This is only $10. But let's just say we have one unit bringing in, how are we going to do this? Let's just say 6,000 square feet. That's a lot of square. Let's just say it's one unit bringing in $60,000 per month. Okay, so annual rent, and there's only one unit like that. So annual rent is $720,000. Okay. And Carol, I'm just throwing this out there because we don't have the information, so we have to plug it into. What I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm doing a what-if scenario. One of the powerful benefits of a calculator like this is you get to play what if with it. So just, in other words, think outside the box. Don't just plug in the figures you have available to you and then on first glance decide it's a good deal or not a good deal. What you want to do is play with it. Remember, matter of fact, this is so perfect. I can't believe this came up. Remember I said in the beginning, I have an index card that says, how can I? I apply the same principle to my methodology here when I'm analyzing properties. I'll ask myself, what can I do? How can I make this a good deal? I'll play with the mortgage amount. I'll play with the down payment. I'll play with the rents. See what it would take to make this a good deal. Obviously, I'll play with the purchase price too. Okay. So we got 720 there on gross rents, annual rent, excuse me. And something's happening here. I'm not sure why. Okay, now it should be back. 720. This should have populated. So I think, Carol, what might have happened is you might have plugged in, you might have hard coded these figures in here. So let me do this. Let me go to my computer and see if I can find my opportunity evaluator on here. Opportunity evaluator. Okay, here it is right here. So let's bring this up. It's thinking about it. Come on, computer. Okay, here we go. All right, Carol, I may have to help you out. May have to have you help me out here. Let me go back to this. Okay, this is Danville, California. By the way, Carol, I'm looking to come back out there. I'm not sure if it's going to be November or December, but I'll be at Burlingame out in Roseville, which of course is Sacramento, and hopefully Santa Cruz, and I need one more. I'm just not sure what it's going to be. All right, so I need 3.88 and 2.916. All right, 3.88, 2.916. 3.88. Okay, 2.916. Oops, sorry, that didn't go right. 3.88. All right, I think that's right. And we said that was 970 something. Let me go back here. So guys, just bear with me while I get this information. If we don't do this, we're going to be, spinning our wheels. So 972,000. Okay, 972. 72. Delete that. Okay, now we should come up with mortgage info, acquisition cost, purchase price. That doesn't seem right. Something's wrong there. Okay, 972, 2916, 972, 2916, 972. I'm not sure why this is doing this. Hang on one second here. Let me go back here. 2916, 3.8, 972. Let's fill this in then, or 2916. I think that's what I've got to do. 2916. 16. Yes, that's what I've got to do. 12 payments per year. Interest rate 5%. 30-year term, 20-year amortization. Okay, now we should get some different figures up here, and that should match. Yep. Okay, now I'm going to go back here, Carol. I'm going to assume $60,000 a month rent coming in times one unit is $720,000. All right. Let's assume a vacancy of 3% because I think that's what you had there. All right. Now let's go back and see if you had any other figures. 3%. Other income $800 and taxes $58. Okay. Hang on one second. 800, taxes 58,000. Hang on one second here. There's something doesn't seem right. Because Carol, I think you said you had taxes of 1.5%. Okay, there it is, 1.5%. All right. Property insurance and management 4,000, 3,000, maintenance and repair 2,000. Let's just start playing with this now. We've got enough to work with, so let's go over here and play with this. Okay, management. Let's see, what did you have there? Hang on one second, I'm sorry. 4,000, 3,000, and 2,000. 4,000, 3,000, and 2,000. Okay, 4,000, which is going to be low. 3,000, and 2,000, all will be low figures for a building this size. But what we're trying to do is figure out what would make this a good deal. Okay, now you've got some other figures here. I'm going to assume insurance is a lot more than that. Matter of fact, I'm going to assume it's more like, let's make that 20,000, and that's probably low even there for that matter. Management, probably you're looking at more like, 5%, so let's call that 35,000. All right. So now your deal's down to 15% cap rate, okay? But you have other expenses. The bottom line is this. when you start plugging in these other expenses, all of a sudden, of course, your expense is going to go up, which means your return on investment or your cap rate is going to go down. Now, in a building like this, typically it could be a triple net lease, which means, or at least a net, not triple net, but double net. What that means is the tenant pays almost all of the expenses. In a triple net lease, the tenant also actually pays the property taxes. You see this a lot in the Northeast, okay? Boston, New York, Philadelphia, you see that a lot. But let's assume there's some other figures in here. Lawn care, let's call that a 1,200. Excuse me. That's just, maybe you're in California, so you don't have snow removal. Advertising is probably going to be minimal. Supplies will be minimal in a building like that. Assuming the tenant pays all utilities, that's going to be low there. That's probably going to be more like maybe 12,000. Okay. All right. So let's see. Now we're down to a 14.7% cap rate. That's still really high for the Bay Area. I mean, the Bay Area cap rates are often around 0, 3 or 4 or 5% at best. And by the way, Carol's comments were, let's see if she's typed anything else in here. You're doubling up. The 2 blue boxes should populate separately for total rent. I think this is Shane. 2 blue boxes. Let's see here. Actually, the total rent on this is going to be 60,000 times 12, which is 720,000. And I just use this. I could use this over here. I didn't use it. Shane, I would either use this over here or I would use this over here. I just opted to use this, but I could have just as easily. Matter of fact, let's just do that. Let's make that 0. Rentable square feet was, let's just call it 6,000. Okay. Average annual rent per square foot. I think Carol had 10. So let's see, that's only 60,000. So that's way low. Let's just assume, let's see, let's make it, we made that 100. Oops, 100 per square feet. That's annual. That's going to be real low. So actually, I need to do this. I need to do 20 times, let's call it, that's going to be 240. Now we should get some better figures here. All right. So Carol, in your area, I'm willing to bet these people are not paying $10 a square feet. I'm assuming they're going to be paying a lot more. So what I did is I looked at Shane's comment. I eliminated everything over here in the residential side, went over here to the office retail warehouse side and used this. Let me just go back into yours real quick and see. You've got 6,000 square feet. Yeah, that's only $10 a year. That's $1 a foot per month. That is really low, I would think, particularly for California. More particularly for Northern California. Now this is probably going to be really high. Let's cut that in half. Okay. Now actually there we are, right there to the 720,000. So Carol, if you're on, I think you're on tonight. Andrew says, I don't know if it's me. I just lost sound. Let me check here real quick. Looks like my sound is on. Let me see if anybody else lost sound here. 609 price per square foot. Yeah, that's your price per square foot, but that's your 608, Carol, is price per square foot, but not your rent per square foot. That was on the listing page. I don't know if I had the listing, and Carol says she can hear me. Okay, good. So it looks like my sound is on. Carol, let's do this. If you have the listing, if you could send it to me, let me look at my email. I don't think I saw that. I saw the opportunity evaluator right here, but I didn't see a listing anywhere. If you have the listing and that's all you got, then we definitely need to get more information. What I would do is this. I'm more than happy to help you offline or online. If this is something that's a hot and heavy activity going on, go ahead and email me, and I will stay up tonight and look at it, or I can look at it tomorrow night or Saturday, whatever suits you. After I teach tomorrow, I've got to drive out to the it's called Absentee Island. It's the eastern shore of Maryland, 4-wheel drive territory. But I'll have access to a computer in the morning and at night. So in any case, let me go back to the opportunity evaluator. I want to play with this and see what happens. Right now we've got a cap rate of 14.7, so we know we're off here. In fact, let's just do this. Let's make this cut that in half again. Let's see what happens. Our cap rate. Now our cap rate's down around 5.7. So Carol, this would be more in line with, I think, what you were thinking. if you had average annual rent per square foot, this would be $5 per foot per month. Okay, so 6,000 square feet, six times five, that's $30,000 a year. I would think that will be a good deal for the tenant who's going to rent this building. Okay. As far as any potential buyer goes, Carol, 5.7%. Here's the deal. When you're in areas like that we discussed earlier, Toronto, Boston, Washington, D.C., and of course the Bay Area, I think you'd be lucky to get a 5% cap rate. Okay. And the reality is, though, is that's what's customary for your area. And believe it or not, people will actually invest in that and be happy with that information, with that return, excuse me. I know people who actually will buy properties with negative cash flow because they're banking on appreciation. Believe it or not, a lot of the people that we cater to, particularly the high wage earners, not that, it doesn't make sense. You wouldn't think, well, that's counterintuitive. Why would somebody invest in a negative cash flow? The reason is they're looking to park their money. Okay. They need something to offset gains, or they want something to appreciate rapidly over time. They're not pleased with the 3% appreciation rate. They want more like a 6, 8, or 10, or 15% appreciation rate. And if you look at areas like, let's see, this is 2 years ago, 2013. At the time I looked 2 years ago, literally about this time of year, the Phoenix area was appreciating in some neighborhoods at 50%, okay, annualized, end over end. That they were coming out of recovery, and that's an amazing recovery rate. We all knew it was going to happen, and we just didn't know how fast and how high. Down in California, I was in Laguna Beach, and at that time, their annual appreciation rate was already 15%. 15%, okay, annualized. That's why people will park their money, because who wouldn't want to get 15% return on their money, okay? And at the time, their projection was for another 6 years. So in any case, I hope that this is making sense to you. I know it sounds counterintuitive. Why would people do that? There are plenty of examples of why people do it. A lot of times also, Carol, in the areas I discussed earlier, and I've seen this a lot up in Toronto, a lot of Canadians like to invest in the States. However, I know people from Australia and China who like to invest in Canada, okay, particularly in Toronto. And what they're doing is they're paying all cash. The reason is capital appreciation is far more important to them than your cash return, your return on investment. In other words, your cash flow or net operating income. For most of us on this webinar, including myself, when I was growing my portfolio, my sole focus was on cash flow. I wanted a return. I wanted an average 10% return. I wanted to get 20% if I could get it. And appreciation, the increase in value of the building was definitely, if not a secondary, a distant third or fourth, okay? But my strategy was grow rapidly and increase cash flow, okay? Now, think about it. If you're already worth $20 million or $60 million and, you're okay on cash flow, what you're looking to do is take some of your net worth, your value, and put it in something that's brick and mortar, that's relatively safe. Even though a market may correct itself, just in real estate, just like any other market, the bottom line is this: as long as you don't sell, and you don't have to sell, you're going to recover. You're going to recover just like the rest of the world will, just like the rest of the real estate business will recover. And that's exactly what happened in the last recession. The people who lost are the people who sold. The people who gained are the people that held, okay, or bought if they had available cash. So in any case, let me check here and look for questions, and I'm gonna expand on that point a little bit more if you guys want me to. I sent you a listing from LoopNet. Will probably come from Pat Absher. Let me look for that email then. Hang on one second, Carol. And I'm assuming that went to probably my Comcast email. So let me do this. Abshire, okay. Abshire. Let's see if I got something there. And I probably didn't recognize it if that's where it came from. LoopNet, here we go. Bingo. And that was at 7:26. Oh, you just sent that. Okay, thanks, Carol. I thought I missed an email. I apologize. All right, view listing details. And by the way, for everybody else, for Shane, Julie, and Adam, I'm gonna get to your emails. Don't worry. I know I'm putting a lot of time in this, but this is very, very important. 3.8 million. Let's see what else we can find here on this property. Okay. Price per square foot, 608.91. Retail, lot size, year built, occupancy is 100%. So they were telling you is a cap rate 5%. So we're probably spot on, Carol. We came up with a cap rate of 5.7 with us getting, what did we say we're going to get? 720, $360,000 a year in incoming cash flow. All right. So let's see what else they give us here. See if they give us any other information. Scheduled gross income. Here we go. 196 for the year. Now this can't be right. You got pre-tax cash flow, net operating income. Well, they're telling us the net operating income is the same as our scheduled gross income. The only way that's possible is on a triple net lease where the owner pays nothing and the tenant pays everything, including taxes. Yes, that's possible, and yes, that happens around the country, particularly in commercial properties, and particularly in bigger properties. But let's see if there's a flyer here with more information that'll expand on that. We want to make sure we're being accurate in our guesstimations. Okay, this is probably going to be somewhat lengthy, but hopefully it'll give us what we need. Okay, there's our gross receipts again. Square feet. Looks like a nice place, by the way. Great location. Of course, they always give you good pictures, right? Okay, I'm looking for raw data, and here we go. Let's see what we got here. Now, this is the demographics. You always get that in a commercial report. Right now, I'm not looking at demographics right now. I'm looking at income and expense, if I can find it. Here we go. I think this is more demographics. It's giving you what they're saying are average income and expense rates for the area. So this is a weak report. I don't know who Saul is, but he's given you all generalized projections and no real data. So let's not use that. And let's go back to the opportunity evaluator here. Okay. So let's make this, we got to cut that almost in half again. Let's call it 35 per square foot. That gives us about 210. We need to go down a little bit more. Let's call it 33 per square foot. 198. There we go. Now look at our cap rate. 1.7. But here's the deal. Triple net lease generally means utilities and taxes and insurance. Okay. A lot of times on a triple net lease, the current owner is still responsible for other items. But let's just say, for example, this is a triple net lease and tenant pays everything. Okay. Now you've got a cap rate. Something happened here. Let's see. We got gross rents. We got additional income. Okay, let's just, that should be okay, 0. That's what we had here. Let's just make it $10 in, okay? Now we got a cap rate of 4.9%, okay? So on this triple net lease, assuming 0 expenses, you got a cap rate of 5%, which is, I would say, typical for your area. However, I've been around a long time. I think I'd be hard pressed to believe that this building would have absolutely no expenses, even on a triple net lease. Now, the other thing too is I know the rents could probably be higher. So one of the things, Carol, I would do, a couple suggestions. If you could check around, see what the market rates are per square foot for a building like that. It looks like an A building, a grade A building. See what rents per square foot are. It's going to be industrial space, even though it's used for a daycare. It's still considered industrial or warehouse space. Okay. See what the average rent per square foot is. Then what you can do is start to play with this. Play with the price, knock the price down, increase your down payment, your 25% down. Play with it. Play with the figures and see what you come up with. Because if you've got a red hot investor, you've got a nice property like this, and he's willing to he's agreeable to a 5% cap rate in your area, I would be all over that, Carol. Okay. All right. Let me bring this back here and check for questions. Okay. LoopNet. Okay, Gary, on the opportunity evaluator worksheet, what's the difference between the amortization period and a loan term? Okay, The amortization period is the number of years that the loan is amortized for. What that means is when they do our amortization table, they're going to go out 30 years. Okay, the loan term is the actual term of the loan itself. In other words, it's a 20-year loan, meaning it's due and payable in 20 years. That's not the same as amortization. The amortization is the actual mathematical calculation that's used to determine your monthly payment. Okay, in other words, you've got a 30-year loan, 360 payments at 5% interest rate, gives you a monthly payment of $15,000 and some change. Okay, if the loan term was the same as the amortization period, the loan term will be 30 years. Okay, what this means though is at the end of 20 years, there's still going to be a balance left on this loan. Okay, and you got 10 years left on it. Either the bank will reprice it, or they could call it in, which they generally don't do, but typically they'll reprice it. Okay, but that's the difference. The loan period or the loan term is when it's due, how long you actually have outstanding on it. The amortization period is the mathematical calculation used to determine the monthly payments. Okay, all right, let's see here. Let's do this, guys. Let's I just wanted you to see how to play with this a little bit, okay, and help Carol figure out if this is going to be a good deal on it. Carol, I think it has promise. I think you need to get a lot more information from, I think his name was Amir. Tell him you need specific data. If he says, I need an offer to get specific data, then give him a letter of intent and, condition upon the receipt of all the data, okay? That's how you get there. You need information, and then if you want me to look at it with you, I'll be glad to do that. So let's go for the moment, let's go back to, email here. And let me go back here 1 second. And let's look at Shane's email. Again, Shane, what I did is hang on 1 second. That didn't work out right. Here it is. This was the one I want. So I took out the sentence, Shane, that you wanted me to take out there. So let's see. Shane's in Northern Virginia, Ashburn area. And actually, Shane, I just sent the email to Wendy, your assistant team leader, who's down in Mega Camp. I met her actually Sunday night coming in from the airport. And I sent her information on the class. So we're looking at teaching that the last week of October out in the Ashburn area, Ashburn Market Center. In any case, here's the question. I have a couple of investors and also looking for myself. I need to personally invest in 2 rental properties in the next year. So I need to put my clients into deals ASAP to raise cash. Starting an investment client group at the local level is right up my alley. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that, Shane. And I agree with you. These workshops are an awesome way to build clientele, to develop develop rapport, develop relationships. And where you are in Ashburn, you have access to the DC metro area, all of Northern Virginia, southern Maryland, and actually the rural areas of Manassas, Fauquier County. You're in an awesome area. Okay. Currently having trouble locating rental properties in Northern Virginia. And for everybody on the call who's not from there, that's what NOVA means, N-O, Northern VA, Virginia. Just like in Northern California, we got NoCal and SoCal, and sometimes people just call it Cali. Let's see here. Very limited listings on MRIS. What do you suggest I do for opportunities in NOVA for rentals? Nearby workers could work too, but it would be nice to start this close to home. I agree. And good question, because I've got some good answers for you. There's another email in here from Julie Wazalewski from Western Pennsylvania. I don't know if she's on the webinar tonight. But this subject actually came up 2 weeks ago, and it was from a guy named Anthony Ogletree. And he's learned how to access his county court records. By the way, county court records are available in every county in the country, okay? There's very few where you actually have to go in person. In Canada, in most cases, particularly in Ontario, you do have to go into local courthouses to get court case records. And what I mean by that is what you're looking for, Shane, there's 2 things I'm going to suggest you do here tonight. The first thing is this. You can call your local county courthouse and ask them for the website that houses their county records on court filings. In other words, people filing for divorce, banks that have filed notices of default, against homeowners who are falling behind on their mortgages. All right. And generally there's a free version and a paid version. and the attorneys will generally have a paid version because they're using it so much and they're getting a lot more detailed information that we don't need. But what you can do is generally you need to search by date with a date parameter, Shane. You've got to have a date range, and I would generally keep it within 30 days. And you're going to, when you find this, when you look at this online, you will know why I suggest a 30-day lookout period. Okay. If you go back past 30 days, you're going to have way too much information to look at. There's a lot of people getting divorced, a lot of people who are behind on their monthly mortgage payments. Okay. The other thing too is this: you want to keep it to within 30 days because that's fairly fresh data. If you go back 3 months, 6 months, a year, a lot of cases those people have solved their problems. They've got a house under contract with another realtor in the case of a divorce, or they're doing a short sale, or they may be made good on their mortgage payments. Okay. But what you can do is you find this information, and every record is going to be identified by an acronym. There'll be one acronym for family court for divorces, another acronym for notices of default for foreclosures, and there's other court cases you can look at too. Okay, but those are the two main ones to find people who are looking to sell, and that includes people who own rental properties. Okay, because a lot of times people go through a divorce. Not only do they stop making their own mortgage payment because they're fighting who's going to pay it and who's not going to pay it, they do the same thing on their rental properties. All right. Now, I can't give you specifics on every single county. We would be here for 3 years if I did that. However, I did do a special presentation on this last year, and I think it was for the people up in Western Pennsylvania. And I showed them the steps to go through to get access to this data. And again, it's free. All right. Now, if you get a response on a phone from calling your county courthouse and that doesn't satisfy you, go visit your county courthouse directly, get access to the court records that way, and then you'll know what to do when you go home and do it on your own computer. But that's one way to get access to properties where you might have some need to sell type owners or want to sell type owners. Okay. But the easiest approach is this, Shane. There's a letter that was sent out by Beverly, and I think it comes with your module 1 email. It's one of the attachments, I think, or it's a link to an attachment. And the letter is designed to send to owners of small multi-unit rental properties. Okay, you can use it for other purposes. Matter of fact, we were helping Anthony Ogletree customize that letter to be used to send to people who've received notices of default. Okay, so he learned how to use the county court records in his area, and he's now using that letter to approach them. The same letter, same format, just slightly different wording. But for you, Shane, I would use the letter just the way I gave it to you in the handouts, okay? And go into here's what I suggest you do. Go into this is a different database, by the way. Go into your county's tax assessment database. It's different than the court records, okay? And the good news for you is you actually have access to it through MRIS. Of course, MRIS, for those on the call here, is the Northern Virginia version of their multi-list system. It's in Maryland, Northern Virginia. A pretty robust and giant system. And when I looked at it, Shane, back in May when I was researching the area that come in here to teach, you had like 79,000 listings, and I think there was only 400 or 500 that were multi-units. Okay, that's not a lot for 80,000 listings. So what you do is to kind of circumnavigate this situation where you're not competing with every other agent out there for a limited supply, is go into your tax assessment database. And I like to go through the MLS system to do this because you have search capability, and do a search on whatever it is you're looking to buy, a duplex, a 3-unit building, a 4-unit building. You can say, computer, give me the properties that have 3 units and are in zip code, whatever zip code you want to pick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? You might get 20 of them, you might get 50 of them, but the bottom line is you're going to get the property information on every single 3-unit building in your zip code. You not only get the property information, you also get the owner's information, particularly the owner's mailing address. It's real legitimate data because that's where they're getting their tax mailing sent to, and also any other type of notifications from the county, okay? Then what you do is this, Shane. You can use it for yourself, but the letter actually works better when you're representing other buyers, okay? Instead of sending a letter saying, hi, I'm Shane, I'm an investor, I'm interested in your property, you use the letter I gave you, and always make the salutation name specific. Dear James, dear Beth, whatever the first name is of the owner. In the first sentence, you name the property specifically. I'm writing to about your property located at 123 Main Street. Okay, and I'm just going to whiz through this because you got the letter already and your information. After that, I'll say, I'm not suggesting you sell your property if you don't want to. So I diffuse them. First, I intrigue them because I've identified them by name and I've identified their property specifically. Then I diffuse their fear of getting another junk mail letter by saying, I'm not suggesting you sell your property if you don't want to. Okay. Then I say, however, inventory is tight right now, and I have buyers and I'll name a person's last name, Mr. Matajasic, for example. Okay. So name one of your buyers by last name. Don't use the first name. Don't give him any other information, just last name. Who are interested in buying 3-unit buildings in your area. And that's why I specifically seeked you out, because you own one of these buildings. Now, Shane, keep in mind, you're looking to send this letter to everybody who owns one of these properties. So you might be sending out 25 letters in your zip code to 3-unit property owners. Okay. On each one, you're going to make it name specific and property specific. So it looks like it's geared specifically to them. In this case, actually it is. You just happen to be sending out 25 of them. Okay. And you only want to do this though if you actually have buyers, Shane. Don't do this if you don't really have buyers looking for 3-unit buildings in that zip code, okay? Because you got to be able to walk the talk. People will sniff it out if you're not being authentic. If you're one of the buyers, you could say that. You could say, I have buyers in like Mr. Matajasic, excuse me, and myself included. Okay, I generally don't say that. I would generally present myself as a broker who has ready-made buyers, and I intrigue them with certain information, like the fact that inventory is tight. I've identified them and their property. Okay, and not everybody is going to respond to you, but about 15% of them will agree to do business with you. Okay, when you use that letter the way it's worded. So I would send that letter out to those guys, and I would send it out every month for 12 months until they respond to you. Now, when they begin to respond to you, you want to drop them from future mailings. Okay, and I'll give you a little bit of a hint here. Okay, when you're sending this letter out, after you sent it out, if you're driving through the area and you see people out working on one of those properties, like putting on a new roof, stop and introduce yourself, Shane, and say, hi, I'm Shane. I'm the guy that's been sending the letter. Because a lot of times the guy putting on the roof is actually the owner himself. And if it's not, the whoever's putting the roof on definitely knows the owner, okay, because they're working for him. And you can say, hey, I've been trying to contact the owner. I sent him information. Do you happen to have his cell phone number so I could call him? Okay, then you can call the guy. Chances are he'll be out there at one point or another, and you'll be able to run into him directly. And what I discovered is this: everybody who owns rental properties is eventually going to want to sell, just like people who own boats. They get tired of them. They get tired of the tenant problems and the headaches and getting beat up over 10, 12, and 15 years, and they're ready to sell. They just don't sell because, quite frankly, they're still got cash flow coming in, so they're not properly motivated to reach out to you directly. It's going to take you reaching out to them. Okay, and this is one of the ways you do it. So that's 2 techniques to get inventory in a tight inventory market. Number 1 is access your county court records, see who's going into default, see who's getting notified of a divorce. Okay, you can also look for probate filings. People who've passed away and they left property there to be probated. That's another way you can use the county court records. So that's 3 things you can get out of county court records. Okay, and with this letter, now you're going to people directly who are not in distress. They simply own multi-unit properties, and a certain percentage of them are certainly going to be willing to speak to you and potentially list them for sale. Okay, so let me check questions here real quick before I go any further. Okay, let's see here. All right, I got Donald's question. Okay, is this something I can put in the investor booklet I mail out? Okay, that property, Carol, even for California, I would consider that a high-end or high-priced property, but it all depends on who you're sending it to. So if you've got high-wage earners, doctors, chiropractors, dentists, people who own their own businesses like engineers, and you know enough about that to know that they will be qualified for something like this, then absolutely put this in your booklet. The bottom line is you always want to, when you're working with investors, and we do this not only because we can, but because we should, we want to tailor our information, tailor what we're sending them specifically to them. based on demographics and social graphics. Okay, so in other words, some of the people who are receiving your booklet, Carol, might not ever be able to afford a place like that. At least in their minds, that's what they think. So think about who's receiving it, and if it's appropriate for that crowd, by all means include it. Okay. Another thing, Carol, you can do when you do investor workshop, you can encourage your investors to group together in small partnerships to buy properties like this, particularly in high, guys, this is for everybody who's here on the call from Canada, particularly Toronto area, even in Ottawa. We've got students there, but also specifically the high priced areas I've mentioned before. Phoenix could even qualify for that too, but definitely San Diego, San Francisco, Toronto, Boston, Washington, D.C. You can, when you bring people together in these community workshops, they'll get to know each other. Don't be surprised if they start to form ownership groups, okay? Just like ownership groups in Keller Williams who band together to invest in market centers. Same thing in investing, Carol. So this is a prime opportunity for you to work your area and get these people to get to know each other and help them, maybe bring in an attorney one night, Carol, like your local title agent's title office, whoever runs that office, the attorney, have them come in and do a special talk for your group to talk about them forming simple LLC partnerships, okay? That's an excellent idea. Okay, this is Carol. I have a cash investor, but he's looking for 7% cap rates, and I'm having a hard time finding that in the Bay Area. How do you suggest I approach this? Carol, if he's looking for 7%, and you got something that's right around 5%, and he's got all cash, I tell you what, I would tie up the property, do a letter of intent, okay, get some due diligence going, get the guy out there to look at it, because if you're that close, chances are the seller is going to come down on his price, the buyer will come up on what he's willing to offer, okay, and if they can work out terms, like maybe the seller will assume all payments of property taxes and transfer taxes so that they can expense that or potentially offset capital gains. So even though they're not necessarily playing directly with price, they're playing with terms that lower their cost basis or raise their expense ratio that gives them a bigger tax break, okay? So there's things like that you can do. But if you got somebody like that, Carol, 7%, he's going to have a hard time finding that unless you went outside the Bay Area. And let's say you went up to the town Tracy, okay, that's not nearly as high priced as Sacramento, but Stockton, take them to Stockton. You may need to travel a bit to get 7% up to an hour, but I think if you're within your area, you should find enough places that are close enough where both people bend enough and come towards each other enough where you can strike a deal. Because here's the deal, money talks, all right? And when people see that they can pay cash for a property and maybe not get 7%, but maybe get 6% or 5.5%, and they see the building and they see the money coming in, I guarantee you they'll soften up, and the guy selling will soften up too. You just got to get the ball rolling, Carol. Get working on it, practice with it, and start working on those terms, okay? And keep me informed. If you need help on terms, just let me know. All right, this is Adam. Gary, do you think there's any advantage to handwriting these letters versus typing them, or is it a wash? Adam, I never handwrote them. I always typed them because my handwriting is so atrocious. But so the letter is typed in Word. Now the signature, my signature is always authentic, original signature on the letter. And the outside of the letter, the envelope itself, that is always handwritten. I always handwrite the address and the return address on my envelopes. And on the envelope, I never disclose I'm a realtor because you're going to do that inside your letter. All right. Let's see. Hi, Gary. Let's say we send out the letters. Someone responds. They want to sell to your client. Do we fill out listing agreement for just this one buyer, or do we list it on MLS? And if it's just the one buyer, do we just come up with a one-sided commission? And if we have to put on MLS, wouldn't it need to be a higher commission if you now would need to split the fee? And this is from Lou. Hi, Lou. Lou Perica. Okay, Lou, excellent question, and I got a good answer for you. Particularly in your market. Matter of fact, this is true for anybody. I don't care if you're in Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, or wherever else I've taught. Inventory is pretty tight almost everywhere. So here's the deal, Lou. I know that the way the letter is designed is to attract owners of properties that you already have demand for, people who want to buy them. But that doesn't mean that you hook those people up directly. You still want to list the property. And here's the logic. Here's the conversation you have, Lou, with your seller. Even if they bring this up, you say, why won't you just introduce me to the buyer directly? I would say this, Lou. I would say, look, we already know inventory is tight, right? And when inventory is tight, what that means is because of the laws of supply and demand, we have demand that exceeds supply, which drives up prices. If that's the case, is it not in your best interest, seller, for me to put your property on the MLS system so that now all whatever 8,000, 10,000, 12,000 agents in the area are able to promote your property to their investors, to their buyers? That generates more interest, more offers, and the more offers you have, the better, because competing offers drive up the price. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller, isn't it what you want? Don't you want to sell the property for the highest price that you can? If that's the case, the best tool we have to get you the highest price is to put it on the MLS system and get competing offers coming in. So, Lou, that's what you want to do. You really do not ever want to hook those people up directly until you've marketed it. Now, you do have an obligation to the seller to get the highest price, and you do have an obligation to your buyer to find him the best deal. You are doing that. You're hopefully getting multiple listings from these letters. If the guy's looking for a 3 in a building, like Shane, for example, there should be multiple buildings that you can attract, and there certainly will be multiple Shanes. Okay, so you are creating, you do have demand. You're creating a desire for higher price because you demonstrated that you have demand, and in fact, the market conditions tell you right there. There's no, you don't have to persuade anybody. They understand it's tight inventory. Okay. And yes, when you do list it, you definitely have to put in there commission that you have to split with the other broker. But based on what I just described, Lou, you want to do that. You want to put on the MLS system to get that the highest price possible for your selling client. Okay, great. It's starting to click. Having a little chicken or egg scenario. Clients are looking for 10 to 12 cap rate with decent cash flow. I told them we might need to get in the car and drive a couple hours north or south. And this is, oh, hi, Shane. Yes, Shane, where you are, within an hour's drive, you got a number of small towns that you could definitely work in. I mean, my goodness, you got Leesburg, you've got Warrenton. Not that you want to go all the way down to Richmond, but Richmond is a hot area right now, and you got all those little towns in between there. Okay, I would like to think, 10 to 12% in Northern Virginia could be kind of tough. Particularly the closer you get to the city. But if you go out in the outskirts, there's plenty of towns where you can definitely get 10, 12%. And what I would do is, start with the MLS, see what's out there. If you're not satisfied with what you see, then definitely always remember this. Always go to your county's tax assessment database. So far, I've only seen 4 counties out of 3,000 counties that don't have it loaded online, okay? And I've seen in every single MLS systems I've seen out there has access to it, okay? Now in Canada, you have to use, there's Geo Warehouse. There's a couple options up in Canada actually that you guys can use. Matter of fact, I'll be up there in the weekend after next for a long weekend and the week teaching afterwards. So we can focus in on that if you guys want to. We can get a little study group together for those of you who are in Hamilton, Burlington, Kitchener, let's see where else, in Whitby, Newmarket, Oshawa, London. Make sure you guys group together in study groups and share information, because this is like the owner-occupied business. You can share information in the investor business and help each other out, okay? Okay, let's see here. What else do we have after Shane? Lou, this is from Lou again. Or are we having the buyer pay us our fee? Okay, that's a follow-up question to Lou's prior question. The answer is, Lou, you can have the buyer pay your fee. There's no reason you can't do that. You should always have a minimum commission anyways. In your area, minimum commission is not going to be a factor because you have such a high price area. But the bottom line is this, Lou, is I would use that simple logic: tight inventory, supply and demand, drive up prices. If I'm somebody who is interested in selling my property, I would be very easy to convince to put it on the MLS system, where now I'm not just having you market my property. I've got 8,000 agents or 10,000 agents market it, bringing in potentially multiple buyers to drive up the price. Okay, that's an awesome position to be in. Carol, oh, thank you, Carol. You're welcome. You're welcome, Carol. Okay, I have a client who is looking for flip homes in the Baltimore area. I don't have a school report yet from my broker. How can I determine the best area for a profitable flip? And this is Emily. Hi, Emily. How you doing? You have to, without having your school report, here's what you can do, Emily. If you want to you can Google school ratings, school district ratings, and there's at least a dozen websites out there that give you school district ratings. So look and see what the best school district is in your area, okay? Then go on your MLS system and do a search. Do a couple searches in that school district with the main criteria. You want to see what's sold in the last 30 days, okay? And in there, look for a pattern. And what the pattern you're looking for is what zip codes or more are represented in those sales, the sales data. What zip codes sell more than the other zip codes within that school district? Okay, now you can go to the melissadata.com that you do have access to. And in melissadata.com, you can drill down to the specific carrier routes that have the price ranges that you just determined where the hot areas were, okay? So you can do that, but I would definitely, matter of fact, Emily, Adam Curry's on the call here tonight. He actually did his own school report. We went over it, I think that was last week or the week before. It's not hard to do. You can definitely do it yourself. I just would like to think that each market center would do it for the entire market center. Short of that, though, find out what the good school district is in Baltimore. And by the way, I went to Northwood Elementary when I was a child in first and second grade up near Northwood, which is kind of up down the road from Morgan State College. Anyways, use that to determine the good school district. Then within that, do a search on solds in the last 30 days and see what zip codes pop up more often than others. And look for that combination of volume, how many are selling, and how fast you're selling. So you also need to look at the number of actives in those areas too. So you can do this on your own in a matter of 15 minutes, okay? Then use that melissadata.com to zero in on specific carrier routes, specific areas within those zip codes, okay? So that would start with that, Emily. And it sounds like you're the flipper yourself based on your question. If you are, that's awesome. We sent out a free book last week to everybody on the call. Matter of fact, I think she sent it to the entire database. Everybody got the free book on flipping. It hasn't been published yet. It's just in raw form, but it gives you the basics that you need to look at. So if you didn't get that, Emily, please check your email. And if you just signed up like today or this week, for example, you may not have received it, but we'll make sure you get it, okay? By the way, we are based on demand. I'll just put this in there as an aside, guys. I'm sorry, I know we're getting late, but I got a few more things to cover here for Adam and for Julie. All right. A couple of you guys have expressed interest in wanting to learn more about flipping and learning more about property management. And we do have the information. We have the tools. I am going to put together a development group. I've done this before for other products, and it works great. So those of you who are interested will take the content that I have, go through and develop the course as we go through it. The benefit to you is you get free and clear access to me and other people who've done this. I'll have Brenda Griffin in the mix there. She's the big flipper down in Virginia Beach. She doubled her, by the way, her commission income this year, guys. The first half of this year was double all of last year after she took the program at the end of the year last year. And all she does is work with flippers. Okay, she knows what she's doing. So you're going to be learning from experts. So keep an eye out for that. You guys are welcome to participate. Okay, let's see here. Great script for a FSBO as well, right? This is from Joe. Yes. By the way, that script I gave you guys, okay, that letter is very, very versatile. Just like Anthony Ogletree did the other week. He took the letter that we gave you guys, slightly tweaked it with the wording to approach people going into default. You can slightly tweak it to go for the FSBOs, the expireds. It's a very short, sweet letter. It provides wonderful results. And you guys come up with the examples, and we'll go over the wording with you, okay? Let's see, this is from Lou. Would the seller think it was a bait and switch? Laugh out loud. Lou, if you just word it the right way, I wouldn't think so. I mean, you're obviously, if your heart's in the right place, you want that guy to get the most money for his property. Well, you know as well as I do, the best way you're going to do that is to not just present it to one buyer, but present it to multiple buyers, okay? You want to generate almost like an auction type mentality, okay? So I would think if it were, I've never had a problem with this. I've never had anybody say, hey, you're trying to fool me. When you show them the facts and the information, man, I promise you, anybody would want to say, yeah, put my property in front of as many people as possible to drive that price up. Okay. Um, okay. That was it for that question. Let me go back here and let's do a find on Adam. Hang on one second here. And Adam gave us a couple of great emails. So let's look at those. Hang on one second. And you guys definitely hang in there another few minutes. We'll be on another 10 minutes. I just want to go over this with you because everybody will benefit from this. We got Shane. We got Carol. Now we're on to Adam. And by the way, Julie Wazalewski, I think we covered her with the response to Shane. So she's good. So let's look at Adam's email. Okay. Hi, Gary. I hope all is well. Quick question. While touring a foreclosure yesterday, I noticed that 2 to 3 other houses that look similar in similar disrepair. I wrote down the addresses, and now I'm wondering if I should approach these owners in some way. How would you do that, if at all? Write a letter? Yes. Okay. Adam, that's right. That's why I wanted to say this. So what we did is if you take that letter, Adam, that we talked about, and you tweak the wording just a little bit, you can send it to these people. So you've got their addresses. Now what you do is you go to the county database, your tax assessment database, pull up the addresses, get the owner's mailing address, because it's typically will be different than the actual property address in the case of absentee owners, for example. So this, by the way, this does work for absentee owners, who typically, there could be people in default, people going through divorce, or simply people who own their properties and rented them out because they didn't sell them a couple years ago, or they just decided they were going to be tenant or landlords and now they're maybe tired of it. But the bottom line is this, Adam, you could take that letter that you have, definitely tweak it to approach these guys. I don't remember the exact wording we came up with for Anthony Ogletree 2 weeks ago, but I would replay that call because he's actually using the letter now, and he said he's had success with it. Okay. Daniel David, excuse me. He's also used the letter with great success. He's getting responses. By the way, there's an email from Daniel I want to go over here in a moment, so just hold on to that. But back to you, Adam. I would absolutely use that letter. And so in there, what I would say is something like this, maybe they don't want to sell their house. Maybe they're in trouble, but they're afraid from all these people have approached them. I would start off with the same first 2 sentences. I'm writing to you about your property located at 123 Main Street. I'm not suggesting you sell your property if you don't want to. Okay. However, inventory is tight right now, and I have buyers who want to buy properties just like yours. Okay. Buyers and you name somebody by last name. So, and you own one of these properties. That's why I specifically seeked you out. Even if you're just interested, curious about what your property would sell for, please let me know. I'll give you a free evaluation. So we insulted them. You didn't say, I know you're in foreclosure. I can help you. Don't be afraid. Reach out. You didn't say any of those kind of things. You treated them with respect. You wrote a well-worded, well-written letter that's respectful and honors their dignity, because even though they might be in default, you don't know their circumstances. They could, everybody runs on hard times sometimes. But I would absolutely use that letter to send to these guys, okay? Make sure it's the envelope address is handwritten on the envelope and the return address inside there. You can handwrite the letter if you want. If you have decent handwriting and you're only going to do 10 or 12 of these, by all means, handwrite them, okay? And then personally sign it. I personally don't like yellow letters anymore. I know everybody asks about that. But guys, they've been out now for about 10 years. And it's old. Everybody knows about it. It's not like it's anything new. Authentic and genuine is always the way to go. Okay. So Adam sent another follow-up email. Let me look at that real quick. Let's see here. All is well. Okay. I think this is where he sent. Yes. I think this is from Real Track. Is that right? Realist in Cincy MLS. Okay. Realist. All right. So this was just information on one of the properties he drove by. And this is interesting. I wanted to bring this up for a good reason. If you look at the history of this property, let me slide this over so you can see it. You can see in 93, the current owner bought it, okay? In 97, Douglas Mallon sold it to Kevin and Beverly Gulia, okay? Then Kevin and Beverly Gulia put it in a family trust. Now, there's other trusts you can use, like Cupert Trust. It's a qualified property trust called Cupert that you can put properties in. It looks like these guys just use a standard family trust. Then a few years later, this is 03 and 04, the next year, they took it from the family trust and put it back into the owner's name, all right? And then 3 years after that, they went from the owner's name back into the trust again. So, Adam, I don't know what the story is behind this, but clearly these people are looking to maneuver to do something in their best interest, and I can see that they also got a new loan in 04. Look at the mortgage amount went from 237 to 293. So maybe the way they did that is they had to put it back in their own name in 04 to get the loan in 04, because probably the bank would not lend money to a trust. That's probably what happened. Then 07, they might have got in trouble and put the property back in the name of the trust because they got in trouble, and that's what's going on now. So this to me is a clear indicator that they need some help, and you could possibly offer them that help. Let's go back here now, 1 second. I think that was it for the other email. Yeah. So let me go back here and check. I think Adam sent in a message. Whoops. Okay. Mine is horrible too, but my girlfriend offered to write them. Okay, good. Yeah, matter of fact, women's writing, it's been determined, is received more favorably than men's writing. Okay, it's just a statistical little tidbit there. But Adam, what I would do is I would write these people, go to the county database, get their current address, mailing address, and send them this information. If they're local, you could go by and try to visit them in person, but sometimes that freaks people out. Okay. All right, let me do this, guys. I want to go back into email because Daniel David, I love Daniel because he's really taken this stuff to the nth degree. Let's see. Let me just reduce this because he's got some personal stuff in there, and I didn't realize, Daniel, I'm sorry. If you guys put personal stuff in your emails, make sure you let me know in the subject line, this is confidential. But the point I'm trying to make here with Daniel is this. He set himself up on Twitter. He's getting hits, I think, thousands of them already. He set this up a few weeks ago. In the first week, he had like 5,000 hits. So he's generating referrals nationwide. He's asked me about agents in Hawaii, and now an agent up in Montreal. And yes, we do have an agent. We have agents in Montreal who have gone through the training program, so they're great candidates for receiving a referral. We've got literally students coast to coast. So here's the last thing I want to share with you guys tonight. One of the things we're developing, we bought some new software for the website. There's a lot of big changes coming up in September that are going to make things a lot easier for you guys to have access to more information more readily. And you're going to get more, all those books I've written, you guys all get them for free, okay? But we're also setting up an online network. We did get clearance that for students who sign on with us in this training program, we're going to put you guys out there in a directory so that you have access to every student around the country, and they have access to you, just like Daniel David's doing. He can look you guys up. He can see that we have agents, literally coast to coast, and he'll send you a referral. Okay, we're not charging anything for this. It's just a free service we're giving you guys as our students. It's kind of a courtesy. I love to do it because I did a lot of referrals in my business. I mean, I sent out literally thousands of them over the years. Okay, now I charge for that, but this service is going to be completely free for you guys. So look for that in the coming months. And by the way, maybe we can have, if you guys are interested in how to use Twitter, I have somebody do Twitter for me. I don't do it myself. My Beverly does it for me. I don't even know how to use it, but apparently Daniel does. We've done special workshops just for stuff like that. When students try something like Anthony Ogletree, Julie Wozlewski, Francis Berry was showing us some stuff a few months ago about workshops. That's one of the things I love about this community we're in is people share information, and it's unlike the owner-occupied business. We share information, tools, and techniques, and everybody benefits. And quite frankly, you guys will never compete with each other because you're all over the country, even within your same city. I mean, Lou, have you had anybody yet that you've had to compete with in your investor business? And by the way, I've taught a lot of people in Boston. So, and I know that you haven't. Just the numbers are there. It's just, you will never step on each other's toes. It's in your best interest to help each other and support each other, particularly when it comes to doing business in your area. Okay, starting to ramble there. I think that is everything for tonight, guys. It is 8:15, and I know I went over again, but I will stay on these webinars as long as you guys want me to, as long as you're asking questions. We're digging into a specific subject. We're going to keep going until you guys are feel like you've got the comprehension level that's needed. So in any case, I appreciate it. We will see you all next week, which is going to be coaching call next Tuesday night, August 25th. I'll be in Hagerstown. Actually, no, I'll be teaching in Hagerstown that day. I'll be in Pikesville Tuesday night doing the webinar from Pikesville, Maryland. So hit me up with those emails, guys, preferably within a couple days of the webinar so they're fresh in my mind. And if you get them to me too late, it's going to be hard for me to grab them before I start the webinar. So in any case, once again, I really appreciate the opportunity to help you all. I appreciate your participation. You're engaged, you're interactive. You guys will learn a lot from these webinars when you do participate and engage. I know you can't make them all. So when you guys make it like this is music to my ears. You're the ones who are going to succeed faster because you're participating. Keep me informed. Let me know how I can help. Don't be afraid to reach out and if there's something urgent, just send me a text message, guys, okay? All right. I will see you all next week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and God bless you all. Bye-bye.